Welcome my Illuminati friends. Today I've got some cheeses to show you that come from the country that is the 6th largest cheese producer in the world, and surprisingly it's Poland. Cheese making was introduced to Poland by the Dutch and the Germans, and I think when I show you the cheeses you'll probably be able to see those influences. In fact, they do make versions of Gouda and Edam in Poland. So the first cheese that I've got for you is this one, and it's called Morski. Now these cheeses are not artisan cheeses. These are mass-produced cheeses that are suitable for export, that are being sold to sort of Polish expats who want something that reminds them of home. So they're not the greatest example of Polish cheeses. The Morski, so normally this would be sold sort of in wafer thin slices, but I got them to give me a piece like this so I could sort of describe to you how it comes. So if you imagine that the cheese is almost like a loaf of bread, and they would slice the cheese off. It's the kind of cheese that you would expect to see, you know, when you have like a continental breakfast and they have like cooked meats and cheese slices. This is the kind of cheese you would expect to find on that buffet. So it's a very young, fresh, milky, sweet cheese. It's one of those cheeses that I would sort of describe as a children's cheese. So it's not unlike Edam. That doesn't mean to say it's bland. It does have that kind of rubbery texture. It can be used for sandwiches. It can be used as a table cheese. It's, I say, it's sweet with a slight little bit of nuttiness. In Poland, you would see cheeses like this used to make like a grilled open cheese sandwich, where it would be served with either fried onions or fried mushrooms. So from that, you're probably kind of getting the idea that Polish cheeses are a little bit bland, and that is the reputation that they do have. There is a Polish cheese known as Oskiepek, okay, which comes from the Tatra Mountains. It's a very salty smoked sheep's cheese. It's only produced at certain times of the year, and it's practically impossible to get hold of outside of Poland. But this cheese can either be served as a table cheese, or it can be served grilled with like cranberry sauce or fried onions. The milk is sort of scalded and then smoked, and it's what they call a decorative cheese, where it's poured into like a wooden mould. And the shape can sometimes be a little bit phallic, or sometimes been described as like a spindle, and it does have patterns on the outside. And you get these at certain times of year on markets in Poland. It has a PDO, but the specifics are so specific that hardly anybody makes it. It was traditionally made by shepherds in wooden huts. It's very difficult to satisfy the requirements of the PDO. So you get lots of other smoked cheeses made in Poland that are sort of intended to be like Ostrzyk. So this is one of the smoked cheeses. Now, this again is sold, imagine, a very phallic shape, and they slice it off. It's a cow's milk cheese. It's smoked. Now, it reminds me a bit of, I don't know if you remember, a very popular cheese like the 80s and 90s, Bavarian smoked cheese. That were, again, it's really like rubbery in texture. It has a gorgeous sort of oaky, smoky flavour to it. And this is also often served grilled and fried. Now, I've never been to Poland, but I have been to the Czech Republic, to Hungary, to Romania. And quite often, as someone who doesn't eat meat, the dish that was available to me on the menu would be fried cheese. And I don't know if this is something that has always been a dish, or whether it's like a concession to the growing numbers of vegetarians and tourists. Quite often it's sort of covered in something like polenta and served with like sauerkraut. But you can fry the smoked cheese. So you need it in about this thickness. If you're frying cheese, you need to make sure the frying butter, that your fat isn't too hot, because you don't want the cheese to kind of burn on the outside and still be hard in the middle. You want an even texture. So I have got here some prepared earlier, some fried smoked cheese, and I've served it with like a lingonberry jam, which also came from the Polish deli, and that's kind of quite a traditional combination, and you could obviously be going to buy that as street food. So if you are watching and you're Polish and there's something I've got wrong or there's something more you could tell me, please do comment below. What would you drink with these cheeses? Well, you can get some really good strong Polish beers. I think there's one called Tatra that comes from the Tatra Mountains, and vodka. Vodka is going to work. So I hope you found these cheeses interesting. They're new cheeses to me, and I'll be back soon with more cheese.